Welcome back. Another episode. Last part of the execution framework is delete. All right, so if you remember the execution 4D framework, it involves doing it, deferring it, delegating it, and deleting it. And today we are on delete. Now, of all the 4Ds, this one can be just as powerful as it is dangerous. That's the best way to describe it. And the reason for that is the definition of delete is to remove or obliterate. When I saw obliterate, I could not think of a better way that delete actually, better word to actually describe delete than obliterate. Because that means once you destroy it, there's no putting it back together. There's no undo, all right? That's it. It's final. So the big piece with delete is that we have to remove those things that do not get us to where we want to go. And there are certain tasks, there are certain requests that their sole purpose is to distract you from what it is that you actually want. And your goal, in order to get the things that you want, is to make sure that those distractions don't derail you from where you're trying to go. Now, if you remember, there are 6 criteria to consider anytime you're looking to delete something, and this is a part of the execution framework as far as the criteria to follow. And they are team, alignment, consequences, deadline, scope of work, and priority. All right, so you need all 6, and you need to have criteria associated with all 6 to figure out what your deletion strategy with an execution framework will actually be. So let's start with number 1, and that is your team. Now, in honor of having the team, I decided to wear black today because anytime you see someone wearing black and they're there to protect, let's say, an establishment, where do you see them? A bouncer. That's right. So your team is like a set of bouncers and your task list is like a club, right? And so in order to get into a club, you have to get past the bouncer. Now the bouncer has certain rules that they actually follow to determine if they're going to let you in or not. And you know, they keep those criteria because they don't want any trouble inside. So a bouncer's role is to keep the peace, and that is what your team's role is meant to do as well. So for something that will not serve you, your bouncers and your team will make sure that those things get turned away or discarded. All right? So that's why your team is so incredibly important with delete, because the things that you wish to delete, they shouldn't even make it in front of you in the first place. And that's what your team's role essentially is. So what could these various things be? What would not be allowed into your club of productivity? All right. Well, those are your beliefs. Those are the things that you hold so strongly that at one point or another you said not again or never again. So in my particular case, the things that get deleted are job offers. Why? Because I decided that I was never going to have a job again. So those do not serve me. Now, there may be of interest to someone, let's say within my network, but they do not serve me. So as those requests come in, I hit delete and I just remove them from frame of mind, because they will distract me in doing what I want to do, and what I'm looking to do is very different than having a 9 to 5. So that's the first thing. But that is not the only thing, because we have all of these filters that exist within our lives to remove the things that are distractions. So when you get stuff in the mail, maybe 1 to 2 pieces out of 10 pieces of mail are actually meant for you and useful. The other pieces are what's considered junk mail and stuff that they don't serve you. So unless you're really interested in something that catches your eye, most of that stuff comes into the mailbox and right into the trash. Same thing with email. Now, whatever form of communication you get or receive, you're going to find that once other folks find out how to reach out and get access to you, that they will start flooding you with information and things that they may believe that's of interest to you. But if it's not, the stronger the filter you have, the better. So that's what your team does. Your team is your filter. And what they filter are all the things that you do not want. Everything you would consider a distraction. And if you train your team on what those distractions are, when they come knocking at your door, the bouncers say, nope, sorry, they're not available and you're not allowed in here. And that's essentially what your team does. So it's very important that you have a strong team that is trained on what it is that you actually want, so that stuff comes in, and they're also trained for the stuff that you don't want, and that stuff stays out. So that's how a team comes in, and that's the first piece there. The next piece is alignment. So we talked a lot about alignment because these are the things that you want. If something you want is in mind, you are aligned with it. If it's something that you don't want, then you're not aligned with it. So everything you're wishing to delete are things that do not fall in line with you or what you're working to do. They would be considered distractions. And for that very reason, they get X'd off the list. That's what delete and obliterate mean. That means they get X'd off the list. And so it's important to understand what things are not in line with what you want. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have your goals or your purpose written down and clear, it will be very easy for you to look at something and think to yourself, maybe this does belong on my list. Maybe I do want this. And that can be a distraction that you don't even recognize because you never had your goals or your purpose defined in the first place. So that's why it's important to write things down, not only so that you understand, but anyone that's on your team understands as well. So alignment's something that only you can decide on, and you need to have clarity with your purpose and with your goals. And once you do, it'll be a lot easier to determine if something is considered a distraction or not. So as far as alignment, things that get deleted, they don't fall on your alignment list. All right, third, consequences. What are the consequences to get something done that wasn't important to you in the first place? Well, if there aren't any consequences, delete it. All right? So when you get that junk mail in, if it's something that does not serve you, if it doesn't have any consequence to you, it should make it even easier to delete. All right, so delete. Anything that doesn't have consequences? Next. All right. Number 4, deadline. So, what if something has a deadline and it's not something that's aligned with you? Well, we already said it didn't have any consequences, so who cares? Deadline doesn't matter because the task doesn't matter. All right? So you didn't think you were probably going to hear that one from me as far as, well, what if it has a deadline? If it doesn't serve you and there's no consequences, the deadline doesn't matter. You can make one up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make it any more important for the fact that it had a deadline because it's not in alignment with what you want. All right. That one's pretty quick, right? So that was 4, deadline. Number 5, scope of work. Scope of work. This could take a little time, a lot of time. It doesn't matter. Oh, man, that sounds so good. It doesn't matter how long it'll take because it doesn't serve you. So you're not going to do it anyway. Doesn't matter if it took a minute. Doesn't matter if it takes a day or a week or a year. You're not doing it because it doesn't align with you or what you want. This makes it easy. You don't even got to consider a scope of work because it doesn't matter. All right. Now, number 6. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, number 6. We're going by so fast. When you have a good system in place, you just fly through it, right? So number 6, priority. Low priority, high priority. It doesn't matter here either. It just doesn't matter. All right? So no matter where something that comes in on your plate falls as far as priority, if it's not something that aligns with what you want, it's not going to be a high priority anyway. So you don't even have to worry about priority. So again, if something's coming through, your team's taking care of a lot of stuff that you want to remove or delete. The alignment needs to be there. And the consequence, there just doesn't need to be any. And after that, you really don't need to worry about the rest of the other criteria because everything else is pretty much solved in the beginning. Now, something to consider is a lot of the things that your team works to put things together for you will actually be a huge help for you. Now, remember, there are certain challenges that everyone has. when it comes to deleting things. And that's having a good process. You want to make sure you delete the things that do not serve you, but make sure that you don't delete or forget or overlook anything that will serve you. And your team can help you immensely with that, as well as whatever system or processes you actually have in place to help you with that. But you need to make sure that you have those specific filters in place so that, again, you don't delete something that you actually need to hold on to. And your team, I cannot stress how important team is, especially when it comes to the deletion piece. Because things you don't even think about, options that, let's say, for example, aren't available, such as if someone's looking to schedule an appointment with you, what gets deleted are all the times that don't work because you already have something scheduled, right? So literally, if someone's reaching out to you, what your team will say is, you know what? They're not available those times, but they won't even provide those as options. What they'll simply say is, well, this is what the current availability is, right? So they show what's available. They don't even tell you what's not available, right? So everything that defines what the opportunity would be for you to actually get it done, if it fell in line with you, is what the team takes care of. And that's why the team is so important. So if you find yourself struggling with too much coming across your plate and overwhelm, you may not have the best deletion strategy in place, or you may be trying to take on too much for yourself to handle. And so this whole execution framework, the goal for it is for you not to be overwhelmed. You have do it, you have defer it, you have delegate it, you have delete it. And we just talked about delete and when to use it.